Okay, I'm live. I think I'm live. If you can hear me and see me, let me know. This is a sort of an impromptu session. It's something I hadn't planned at all, but the match on the TV there, which I'm watching at the moment, between the Down Club final between Kilcoo and Onburn, is threatening to be a one-sided affair. So at this stage now, Kilcoo are 1-8 to 5 points ahead. So I could kind of see the writing on the wall with this match. Anyway, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat there, and I'll do my best to answer them, provided they're reasonable questions. If they're stupid questions, I won't. So, as I say, it's an impromptu session. I'm watching the Burren and Kilcoo county final, or the county final in Down between Burren and Kilcoo. And as I say, it is threatening to be a one-sided affair. So, and I had no intention of doing this, but I am doing it now. And that sun in the background is very annoying. I might have to move. Anyway, if you have any questions, I don't know whether you can see me and hear me. You might just indicate there that you can see me and hear me if you can, and let me know in the chat box there, and let me know if you have any questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. So obviously the Ireland and All Blacks game was very disappointing yesterday, to put it mildly. So people are still getting over that. Stephen Bennett has confirmed, I think. He's given me the thumbs up. So that's either that Stephen is alive and well, or he can hear and see me okay. I think I'll have to move this camera. I'll just move it to the side like that anyway for the moment. Anyway, if you have any questions, fire away, put them in the box there. I'll do my best to answer them. Sometimes it's easy enough and straightforward to answer questions, and sometimes it's much more difficult. People don't realize that a lot of legal questions, especially, don't lend themselves to straightforward yes or no answers or black and white answers. So I'll have a look at this. First question: very impressive with your exercise, ethics, cycling, etc. How often do you cycle, and what motivates you to push yourself? Thanks for the question, Brendan. I cycle every day since I got my new bicycle. So unfortunately, this morning I was out early, very early in the fog. It was absolutely freezing cold. It would freeze the balls off a brass monkey, quite frankly. And to make matters worse, I got a puncture. So I had to get my wife to give me a shout or to come and pick me up. And that was like at before 9 o'clock this morning. It was very, very cold. Anyway, how often, what motivates yourself? I don't know. One thing I do is I rely very much on routine. I'm a man of routine, and I'm a great believer in the power of routine and the power of habit, both getting rid of bad habits and developing good habits. So I was a very heavy smoker for years, and I managed to get rid of the cigarettes a few years ago, a good few years ago. So I'm a big, big believer in routine, and any given day on any given week, I can probably tell you now what exactly I'll be doing for the forthcoming week. Some people probably wouldn't be happy with that and feel that it's very regimented. And my wife gives out to me, she thinks it's very regimented and so on. But as I say, I'm a man of fairly strict routines. So now, Gary O'Toole, what would you tell yourself at 23 starting out if you're to go back? I think I would probably tell myself to trust people more and to give more time and credence to team building and to seeing other people as not all wanting to rip you off and not all dodgers and wasters, and I wouldn't be quite as dogmatic or as black and white as I was then. So I think I would see more in people and think I'd be a better team builder. If I turned the clock back, I wouldn't have been a good team builder. I'd be very much a cracked equipped man. So unfortunately, that's not necessarily the best way to get people on board. Vincent Durkin Design. Have you heard much about success of vacant and derelict grant applications? Anyone got paid yet? I am aware very much of the derelict and vacant grant scheme. It looks good on paper, but quite frankly, from a practical perspective, it is a bit of a disaster because the reality is no bank is going to touch it, and you're going to have to have cash. So not only do you need cash to probably buy the premises in the first instance, you probably need cash to be able to do it up, and only then do you get your grant off the local authority. So on paper it looks like a good scheme, but in practice it's not having much impact, I don't think, and I don't think it's going to move the needle. Can I insist? Thank you, Vincent Durkin Design. Lugo 99. Can I insist on using my Irish name to the exclusion of it in English? I'm not sure what context you're asking, Lugo, but I think you can. Yeah, I think you can insist that your Irish name be used, if that indeed is your name. And you could even adopt the name by common usage or whatever it's called. And you could obviously do it by deed poll as well. But if that's the name you're christened with and is on your birth cert and so on, there's no difficulty, I don't believe, in insisting. And I've seen cases, actually, I've seen district court cases where a person in Donegal, if memory serves me correctly, insisted that the district court prosecution be conducted through Irish because I think they were in a Gaeltacht area and they were Gaelgores. And I think the state then had to make arrangements to have a judge and legal counsel, both sides, who could actually conduct the hearing in Irish. Lee Clark, hi Terry, do you have any opinion on the hate speech laws making their way through the Oireachtas? I don't have any opinion yet. I haven't looked at the bill, haven't looked at it closely. I know it's exercising. I know it's exercising a lot of people's emotions and passions and minds, as it were. I don't have any specific view on it yet, but I will form a view and I will have a look at the pros and cons when I look at the bill. Haven't got around to it yet, and when I do, I'll publish a video on it, and that would be my position on the hate speech laws. Ernie Draper, Terry, just your opinion on this. Would you ever advise someone to go to court without a solicitor, no matter how serious the issue? Should you ever go without a solicitor, no matter the plea or issue? Ernie, I don't believe so. No, it's like asking somebody should they pull their own tooth. They can pull their own tooth all right by tying a piece of string to a door and giving it a good slam, but I wouldn't recommend it. Likewise, I wouldn't recommend going to court. I wouldn't recommend going to court without a solicitor, without professional legal advice. And the reason for that is fairly straightforward. When you go to court, it's ordinarily a fairly serious matter. And if it's a serious matter, it's going to have serious consequences. It could have serious consequences for your personal liberty, and it could have serious consequences for your career and all sorts of other stuff. And I've seen that down through the years. And people wade into stuff. I've seen lads there coming from the Punchestown Festival, whatever you call that, a few years ago, going into Naas District Court and pleading guilty for having a joint or whatever. And the next thing is they have a criminal conviction and they can't go to Australia to take up the job as an apprentice carpenter or plumber. When they could have got the Probation Act in the Naas District Court after the Punchestown Festival if they had legal advice, because all they had to do was rock in and the solicitor makes a plea mitigation and offers to make a payment to the court poor box, and your man gets the Probation Act, no conviction. The difference between having a criminal conviction on your record and no conviction is fairly significant and fairly self-evident to anybody, I would have thought. And people are beginning to realize that now. John Smith and Sean McGowan. I can't see any difficulty, Lugo 99, if you're insisting on being dealt with as Sean McGowan as opposed to John Smith. Can't see any problem with that. Brendan asks a question. After a car accident, you have up to 2 years to begin a claim. Is there any benefit to quickly getting a solicitor right after crash, or is that a bit eager? No, there's no difficulty, Brendan, and that would be a smart thing to do, quite frankly, because you will have sometimes an insurance company looking to deal with a case fairly quickly and basically telling you that you'll do better dealing with them, or that you will be well advised to wrap the thing up quickly, and the injuries board assessment mightn't be great for you. And you're always as well off to get legal advice and get it early. That would be my view. But anyway, if you are enjoying or finding the Q&A, the live, which, as I say, it's completely impromptu, if you find it useful, I'd appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up down below, because it sends a signal to YouTube, to the old algorithm, the legendary, ubiquitous algorithm, and it helps me in terms of building my channel, building my influence, and ultimately world domination. Lugo, can I live in a cabin off grid and officially disappear? I'll have to pass on that one, Lugo. I don't think that's a legal question. RNG, well, lad, how much for the telescope in the background? RNG, that is not a telescope. That is, what they call those things, a thing for a camera. A tripod. It's a tripod for the camera. I don't use it too often, but that's what it is. Not a telescope. Theo O'Donovan, hard to beat, a bit of routine. Much respect from Donegal. Thank you, Theo. Been destroyed by defective concrete blocks. Yes, that's a very unfortunate situation with the mica, or whatever you call it. Now there's some question mark. I thought that there was some issue about it being pyrite as opposed to mica. I don't know, but it's a desperate situation, and I feel very, very sorry for anybody that'll be in that situation. That's shocking. No doubt about it. We've had a pyrite problem down around the Midlands and Enfield in the last 3 or 4 decades. So we'd always recommend, especially buying locally, that well, we'd know the estates actually, quite frankly, around Enfield that would have been affected by pyrite. So we'd always be very, very careful, both buying and selling. Because a house can't have remediation work done, sorted out. Brendan, do you ever meet any subscribers in public? I don't think so, Brendan. If I do, well, probably to come in and our clients. And last week I had 2 different parties in to sign for new properties that they're buying, and those people are, I think, subscribers to my YouTube channel. So I meet them in that way, but I don't organize any assemblies or any meetings or anything of that nature. Maybe it's something I'll look at in the future, I'm always messing around with social media, and I'm always messing around with this whole idea of building a tribe, building a crowd. And it's to do with a fear of failure, quite frankly, a fear of failure as a small businessman, because if I can build a crowd, then I can't fail. If I can build a crowd of loyal subscribers or fans or people who admire me, or even people who think I'm a complete shithead but who respect my opinion and might engage my services, that's what I want. So I'm not too concerned about being popular. I am concerned about being respected. And as a small business person who has had many, many ups and downs down through the years, I recognize the pipeline that delivers clients, that delivers leads and clients. And when you've been in business, and I've been in business since I was 23 years of age, when you've been in business for as long as I have, as a self-employed person, in many, many different businesses, well, then you always have a certain fear of failure, no matter how far ahead of the game you might think you are. And you are always building, and that, quite frankly, is what I'm doing with my YouTube channel. It's what I do on TikTok. It's what I do on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere else. And why I didn't become a barrister, quite frankly, is because in order to get business, get clients as a barrister, I needed to be instructed by a solicitor. But as a solicitor, I can deal directly with the general public. And the only thing that I've learned from Donald Trump, well, I've learned 2 things from Donald Trump, but one of them was his ability, or his decision to deal directly with the general public, with his base, with his fans, with his MAGA crowd through Twitter. And that looked like a lunatic sort of thing at the outset, but it wasn't. It was very clever. And at the outset, just to go back to Donald Trump, I mean, there was speculation at the time that the White House operation would have to take control of its Twitter account, etc. You can imagine now how absurd that looks now, but at the time it looked like a sensible thing. Brendan, we've done that. DC Brit 2003. Good afternoon, DC Brit. You might hit the old thumbs up button down there if you find this useful. It helps, as I say, to build my channel, build the send a good signal to YouTube. I wouldn't be doing this at all now, except the county final there in Down went a bit pear-shaped and threatened to be one-sided. Kilcoo are still 5 points up against the Burren, so I think it's anyway. Ernie Draper, good advice, Harry. But if you cannot afford legal representation, even if a full-time job but have serious debts, bills, what do you do in that situation when you can't afford a solicitor? Depends on the situation, Ernie. There is some legal aid for civil matters. There is legal aid, criminal law legal aid situation. And then if you have debts, significant debts, you have the Insolvency Service of Ireland, who have set up a system, sort of a structure for people who are struggling with debt, and that involves the Awalia service. The Awalia service is very good. It will get you a free consultation with a solicitor and a PIP, a personal insolvency practitioner, and so on. So if debt is your problem, or is the biggest bone of contention for you, well, then there is help out there. There is free help out there for a person who doesn't have the funds. Logo 99. Are there legal and tax advantages from living with 1 foot in Dundalk and 1 foot in Newry? I don't know, to be honest with you. Logo, don't know about that one now, I'm afraid. Anyway, you've used up all your questions there. You've after asking 4 questions there in the space of a few minutes. So this thing is supposed to delay them every 60 seconds. Fair is fair. We want to get as many people asking questions as possible. And sometimes that can be a problem on these live streams. But anyway, I have no idea, quite frankly. And anyway, hope you find this useful. If you do, give it a thumbs up down below. And if you have any more questions there, fire away. Obviously, the match yesterday evening was very disappointing. The All Blacks and Ireland, unfortunately, would just fail to get over the line. Huge amount of hype built up to it and a lot of confidence and so on and so forth. It's a real shame that they didn't actually get over the line, and it's a real shame that last attempt at a try wasn't held up. Anyway, DC Brit 2003. How would someone go about setting up a social enterprise in Ireland? I know that in the UK, someone can set up a community interest company, but it's my understanding that there's nothing similar in IE. I don't know about that, DC Brit. Can't advise you on that. Don't know anything about social enterprise, quite frankly. If you were here living in Ireland, I don't know whether you're living here or not, but if you're living here, you could probably go to the community or the local county enterprise board. They might be able to give you some direction. There's a charities ombudsman here then as well, I think, and there's various bodies representing charities and so on. So you probably would be able to get some useful information from people and organizations like that. You probably should also have a look online and hook up with charities or social enterprise organizations or whoever might have some presence online, and you could hook up with them maybe through LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, and ask them the questions. But I don't know. Social enterprise, quite frankly, wouldn't be my thing. Wouldn't be something I'm familiar with. I've absolutely nothing against it, and it's a great idea in principle and so on, and I'd be supportive of it. But obviously, it's not something that I have any particular knowledge about. Now, any more questions? 111 to 6 to 8 points, 6 points in it. Kilcoo are still fairly well on top. Yeah, if you have any more questions, fire them in there now and I'll have a look at them, see what I can do. especially about buying property or selling property or whatever. But anything else, employment law and so on, I do a good bit of employment law, and I do a good bit of property law. So they'll be the areas, and small business and stuff like that. They'll be the areas that I'll be fairly familiar with. The only law actually I don't do is criminal law. I just don't do criminal law. I used to do it all right, but it's very, very difficult to make a living at it, especially if you start late in your career as a solicitor. And one area of law that I'm getting into in the not too distant future, my plan anyway, is to get into immigration law from 2024, January 2024. Vincent Durkin design, very impressed with reinventing yourself as a solicitor after shop business. Advises someone in current economic environment thinking of flipping property. Not sure, Vincent Durkin Design Limited, but in the property game and in property flipping and in property development, one thing you need is a bit of capital, and the other thing you need is a bit of imagination. And if you have that, if you have capital and imagination, then you will have opportunities, and it's up to you to recognize them and avail of them. I have a client there, and he's been buying properties for the last few years, and he's been kind of taking chances insofar as he's buying properties at bid X1 auctions and various auctions, but they've all actually worked out quite well. He has had capital and he's looked for the opportunities. He's got the opportunities and he's flipping them. And even though he's paying stamp duty and paying legal fees and so on, with with every transaction, he's still well ahead of the game and is doing quite well. In the meantime, for every fellow like that, you have many, many other people who are complaining and whinging and whining about this, that, and the other. And that's the nature of business, I think. It's the nature of life, I suppose. There's people who quietly go about their business and do really well, and then there's other people who are always complaining and whinging and blaming the environment, blaming banks, blaming developers, blaming the government, blaming Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Labour, Sinn Féin, you name it, blaming everybody. That's my view anyway. Do you see a property crash coming in the next 3 years? Gary O'Toole asks. No, I don't see it coming in the next 3 years. That's not to say I don't think it, I haven't thought about it. That's not to say that it won't happen. I have no idea. And I don't pay any great attention to it. The question of trying to predict markets going up or going down or whatever. The question is, if you're going into property, is it right for you, or if it's not? And property is a long haul, long term investment, and that's the way I'd view it. So predicting the market, predicting crashes, you're asking the wrong man. I have no time, no interest whatsoever in it. Quite frankly, I already suffered one crash, and if there's another one, I'll suffer that too and get on it. Sean O'Sullivan, do you have any anecdotal info from conveyancing? Is it easing off? Is it getting worse? Is it easing off or getting worse? I'm not sure what you're asking there, Sean. Are prices coming back? I mean, if you want prices, price information, all you have to do is look at the published data in the media and by the economists and the various tracking reports from the likes of Daft and so on. But there's maybe a small leveling off there or a slowdown in the acceleration of prices in the market, but I can't see any great fall off at the moment. And the economy is in a very, very strong position, and we have a young workforce, professional workforce with good jobs, very, very good employers from outside the state who are obviously in the state now. So there's no sign of any great trouble at the moment, anyway, to be honest with you. Do you think, Brendan, do you think it's true that many accidental landlords, that is 2 or 3 properties, are eager to offload? I think it's overstated. You can't get a better investment than property. Yeah, I don't know. Property is a good long-term, medium-term to long-term investment. There's no doubt about that. That would be my view, notwithstanding the crash there in 2008 or whenever it was. there is a few landlords, a lot of landlords have offloaded in the last few years and left the market all right. But equally, there's a lot of people inclined to or interested in getting into the market. And many people have this vision, this buy to let dream, quite frankly, which they would have seen from other jurisdictions, for example, the UK, and they see it as a good long term investment, a good investment for. A good way to provide a pension, especially if you're a self-employed person, small business man or woman, and you don't have a business or you don't have a pension rather. Now 6 points up to Kilcoo last minute of the game, and they have a penalty. So that's that. Lights out. Anyway, people are always very concerned about property prices and so on. I suppose that's understandable, especially if you're going to thinking about investing and so on. But anybody who thinks they can predict the market, predict the ups or predict the downs in any market, I think are in the wrong activity. They should have one of those globes that you see at a tent, one of those, not suits or what do you call them, fortune teller tents, and one of those crystal balls, because that's a different ball game than investing for the medium to long term, and whether it's in shares or whether it's in property, etc. That's what I'd be more concerned about. And the question you have to ask yourself, I believe, about property or any other investment is not trying to predict the market or predict the perfect entry or exit from a market. The question is investing in that market at all or not, or in that asset class. For example, is property right for me? Do I have the right psychological makeup for it? Are shares a better option for me? Do I have the right psychological makeup for it? Will I crap myself and want to sell every time there's a little setback in share prices, etc., etc.? Or likewise with property, you have to ask yourself these questions. So the question isn't when to get in or when to get out. The question is property right for me, or are shares right for me as an investment class, and so on? That would be my view, rather than trying to waste your time like a woman sitting up in a tent telling fortunes and reading cards, reading tarot cards, or looking into a crystal ball. Anyway, any more questions there now, gentlemen and ladies? I'll do my best to answer them. No more questions there at the moment, no. There'll be no property crash in Ireland. The rest of the EU probably. Logo 99 is the man to tell you what's going to happen. Hungry Irishman, what do you think of the incoming regulations for the reporting accountants report for solicitors? Big increase since the 2014 regulations. Big increase in what, Hungry Irishman? I'm not really sure what you're referring to. The reporting accountants report for solicitors, I don't know. I have an accountant who does a good old job and he gets the accounts in on time. And all I'm concerned about is ensuring that the accounts are in on time to the Law Society, and ensuring that they're in on time to the Revenue Commissioners, and that I have cash to pay the tax. I have a significant tax bill every year, and one of the biggest problems I have would be having the cash ready to pay over to the taxman. But in relation to the specific reporting accountings obligations, I have no idea, quite frankly, of the nuances of that. And it's not something I get bogged down in. I tend to outsource that to the accountant, who ought to know better. How are the changes to payouts affecting your business related to injury claims? Is this reducing your business, Sean O'Sullivan? Not really, no. I wouldn't do a huge amount of personal injury claims, but regardless of the amount that's going to be paid out to the ultimate claimant or plaintiff, the solicitor has to be paid for his time and his expertise, and likewise with the medical reports and so on and so forth. The claimants themselves obviously are going to get less if the amounts being paid are reduced in accordance with the personal injury guidelines and so on. So it doesn't make a huge amount of difference to me. I wouldn't do, as I say, a whole lot of personal injury, but I do a few. I do a small few, all right. But obviously, there is a question of advising a person when they come in and they're thinking about bringing a claim, and maybe they have a medical report or something that is showing, soft tissue injuries only. You'd have to advise them at the outset that the landscape over the last couple of years has changed somewhat, and that realistically, what you're looking at now is this figure of money as a settlement or as an assessment, as opposed to what you might have been getting in the past. So, that has to be borne in mind. And people might plow ahead, or they might say, okay, I'll settle it, or I'll take whatever the insurance company is offering. Where did the idea of bread making come from? It looks delicious. And why do you stick the apple stickers on the door? Brendan. I got a book there one Christmas from my missus. It's called Nevin, actually, it's here. It's Nevin McGuire's book. It's Home Economics for Life or something. And I think the wife was giving me a hint about doing more with the cooking at home. This is the book I got one Christmas, and I looked into it, and the grub looked grand, all right, the dinners and so on and so forth. But there's a recipe in it for brown bread and a plain white loaf, and that's how it started. So it started with Nevin McGuire's Home Economics for Life book. I would recommend it, and that's how I got into the baking. As for the stickers on the door in the office, they're Pink Lady stickers. So I'm a man of habit and routine. Every day I eat a certain amount of fruit. I have a banana around 10 o'clock. I have 2 mandarins after my lunch, and I have a Pink Lady apple just before I leave the office. When I'm leaving the office, I take the Pink Lady out of my bag, I take the sticker off, and I stick it on the door. And before I knew it, the door was covered with stickers, and now I've run out of space for the stickers. But that's the story with the Pink Ladies and the stickers on the door. Which do you think will happen first? Ireland getting past the quarter final, or Mayo winning on All Ireland? Sean O'Sullivan. That's a good question. I think Ireland getting past the quarter final is more likely. I don't think there's any particular difficulty with the Ireland getting past the quarter final. In other words, I think yesterday, if they had been playing Argentina, they would have got past the quarter final. But playing the All Blacks, different ball game. So whether it's the first round or the semi-final or the quarter-final. So I don't think there's a hang up there with the quarter-final per se. I think it's that they just met a better team on the day. That's my view anyway. Mayo, then, God love them. I'd love to see Mayo winning on All Ireland, but it's they've come up short there repeatedly for the last few years. But hopefully they'll get over the line. Any advice for someone starting to learn law in university? Tomo Timu. Not really, Tomo. I didn't do law in university myself. I did commerce. So I don't know what you can expect of a daughter who did law in university and didn't like law, got the degree, and she's now teaching. So I have no great advice for you except to say that from talking to her and understanding what she did in her degree, and understanding then from a practical perspective of being in the trenches in a solicitor's practice, there's a huge difference, I think, between the theoretical or the study of law in university and the setting up in practice of as a solicitor or even as a barrister, as a self-employed barrister. So that's all I'd say there. Vincent Durkin Design. I do pre-purchase property inspections, and I use my drone, which is great for inspecting external issues, septic tank overflow. Then qualified drone pilot. Do you use your drone for business? I don't, Vincent, no, and I've kind of stopped using the drone. And I got the pilot's license there as well. I did the course or did the test online or whatever, but I don't really use it for the business. And obviously, solicitor then, when it comes to property, is involved in a paper-based exercise rather than going out and physically looking at houses and so on. So I don't really use the drone. I could use it obviously, but I'd more use it maybe from time to time, just in making a video or whatever for my YouTube channel, to make some point or other that I might be trying to get across. But hurling final coming on there now. I think it's the Tipperary hurling final or hurling semi-final. We'll have to have a look at that now. Hopefully it will be finished here soon enough. You might hit the old like button down below there now if you're getting any value out of this. It helps me, as I say, it helps the channel, and building the channel is an important part of my business development, because the YouTube channel is very, very powerful, very, very effective in terms of client generation and so on. Tip final, Sarsfields versus Kildangan, good stuff. Sarsfields would be favourites, with Kildangan are no slouches. Yeah, that could be a good old game, all right. The down final now, I must say, was disappointing. I was hoping the Burren might do it, but it was fairly obvious from early on that they were going to struggle, because Kilcoo just picked them off very, very professionally, soaked up all the punishment, or soaked up everything that the Burn had to throw at them, and then went down the other side, the other end of the field, and scored. And the remarkable thing is, looking at the stats there, that the possession stats were, I think, 66% for the Burn, 33 for Kilcoo, and yet Kilcoo were double scores ahead at halftime. That's economical use of the ball, and economical use of personnel and individuals and so on as well. And I find it very frustrating watching football now. Fellas making 30 or 40 yard dashes forward, a massive burst, and the next thing is the pirouette and hand pass or punch the ball back. I mean, Jesus Christ, if you're going to punch the ball back to where you started from, why make the run at all? You know what I mean? Anyway, Tomo is working as a solicitor a very stressful job. Would you recommend going into something else after getting a law degree? I don't find it very stressful, to be honest with you. It's just like, I suppose, any job to a certain extent. You need to be able to manage yourself. You need to be able to manage your own person, your expectations, your mind. You need to be able to manage your resources, especially if you're self-employed. But if you're somebody who's working for somebody else, just as a solicitor, you're employed as a solicitor and you're not self-employed, it could be relatively straightforward. I don't know, maybe you're under more stress then. Maybe I get away with murder because I'm self-employed and I can decide what I'm going to do, what cases I'm going to take on, and so on. And I would be careful about that. I'm not going to take on a bunch of shit, quite frankly, that is going to just stress me out, whatever. So managing yourself and controlling the controllables is important. Would you recommend going into something else after getting a law degree? No, I couldn't say. I mean, that's entirely up to you. There's no way you should be going on to a YouTube live stream and asking some guy, some stranger, about what you might do in the future, because we all make these decisions, and we all make decisions based on our own individual circumstances and our likes and our dislikes and our aptitudes and our training and so on. So that's something that's very personal to you, and you'll need to figure that out yourself. Tip have had a weird record. They've had different county champions last year. That's unusual. Normally you see in a county one team dominating for a good while and getting a good run, like Kilcoo there, obviously, or cock of the walk there. I thought a few years ago now, Thurles Sarsfields were very strong there, especially when your man Porrig Mar was playing with them. Anyway, it's no harm to see the county championships changing and going around. It's good to see it in any county, and it's not good for any county to have one team, one club dominating, especially a club from a big town, the likes of, say, Naas or Newbridge or wherever. It's good to see the smaller places doing well, and obviously the GAA's success is based on the parish. Cayley, Lockmore the best. Lockmore may be the best, Cayley, but I don't think they're in the final. But anyway, you're a Lockmore supporter, so that's fair enough. Everybody Everybody has their own team, has their own place, and that's important. Just got clipped a few times, not dominant, but consistently competitive. Yeah. There's always some team there in every championship in every county that's kind of hard to beat and always hanging around and will pick up a championship in a substandard year or whatever. But they mightn't be the very top dog. But it'll be interesting though. Kildangan or Marriage by John O'Mara. John O'Mara, I think, played for Tipperary, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I'll watch that whole game shortly when we're done here. Any more questions? And hit the old like button there if you don't mind. And as I say, it's just useful. It gives me a. Ronan Mar is Sarsfields. Oh, Porrick Manor is the manager, be Jesus. Oh, that is Turtle Sarsfields. Porrick Mar is the manager, and Ronan Mar is the joint captain. God, there's a lot of Mars. The whole full back line is Mars. And the whole full back line. And then there's two Stakelums as well. That's interesting to see. But so that's the story. Slow day here. Mrs. has gone shopping there in Liffey Valley. So, as I say, the first game there threatened to be a bit of a damn squib. So, nothing else on the TV. I thought I'd do it live. Some of the Mars are related, others aren't. It's a common name, yeah. Best of luck. Enjoy the channel and your practical approach to the cases. Good luck. Thanks, Vincent Durkin Design. Good stuff, and good luck to you in your endeavours as well. Hope you get plenty of surveys to do. I get people looking for surveys all the time, but obviously surveys or recommendations for surveys. But obviously, if I have people buying a property down in the west of Ireland or in Kerry or someplace, they'd be better off looking for a local guy, because the people I know are not going to travel down there. Alan Shanaher, sorry if unrelated, but in relation to equities, do you see the government changing deemed disposal and F tax laws anything? Haven't a clue, Alan. Haven't a clue, quite frankly. Don't know what the government is going to do in relation to equities or shares and disposal of shares and deemed disposals and all that crack. I know what you're talking about. I have shares bought directly myself, and I have very few in those bonds or anything like that. Although I do have a pension, I suppose, of a couple of pensions, but I just buy the shares directly and I hold them. That's it. Sit tight. Hope that they grow, and generally they do. So, the likes of Google and Amazon, Ryanair, Smurfits, CRH, Lloyd's Bank, Vodafone, companies that are doing stuff I understand, and companies that are making money and selling phones or selling concrete or whatever. Cardboard boxes like Smurfits do cardboard and packaging and all that crack. I'm sure they've moved on significantly from 50 years ago when I started out first in business. They were making mainly cardboard boxes and doing printing then and so on. But as for what the government is going to do in terms of taxation, I have no idea, and I don't pay too much attention to it, quite frankly. I just watch the rules as they are, and I deal with them as best I can, but then try and make good decisions in terms of investments and so on. So that's it. Anyway, this whole game. Oh, Barry Hogan is the goalkeeper there. Barry Hogan is the goalkeeper. I wonder if he is son of Ken Hogan's. He probably is. No bother, thanks, Terry. All the best. All right, Alan, thanks a lot. Hit the thumbs up button down below. So that's it now. 43 minutes done there now. With another 15 minutes or so, if I want. But I'll wrap it up early if there's no more questions coming in. And it's good to see so many people showing up at such short notice. How do you feel about the new hate speech and hate crime laws? We're all aware of far-right extremists and far-left extremists online who are inciting murder, hatred and violence. Yeah, I'm very much aware of that myself. I would have thought, though, that there are existing laws on the statute books which could be used to prosecute individuals for hate speech at the moment and for inciting, as you say, inciting murder, hatred and violence. I mean, I think the the laws around the statute books at the moment to do that. So I don't know why the guards don't take, or the DPP doesn't take a more active role in that whole area. As for this new hate law, speech bill, etc., 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 that has to be yet passed and enacted and so on. I haven't looked at that closely yet. I'm not sure exactly. I know that there's strong views on both sides of the argument. I would reserve my judgment until I have a chance to have a look at it and see what the arguments are for and against. I will make a video and I will publish it on my YouTube channel about that, but I haven't just formed a view yet. But there is an argument that there are sufficient laws on the books at the moment, except for whatever reason they aren't. I mean, there is an incitement to hatred offence, I think, some sort of incitement in terms of the speech that you use, hate speech and so on, already on statute books. Don't know what the law is exactly, don't know which statute it is. I don't do criminal law, but I think that there is provision there if the guards and the DPP were so minded. Sam David, what's your general thoughts on the buy-to-let rental market these days? A lot of landlords leaving the market. Yeah, there's a lot of landlords leaving the market, all right. It's difficult enough, I suppose, difficult market, but difficult market insofar as the regulatory and statutory provisions and pendulum swinging in favour of protection for the tenant is a serious problem for landlords. Having said that, there is obviously a great demand. There is a housing shortage, we're told repeatedly, and therefore that would draw you into any market if there's a shortage. But on the other hand, there is a difficulty with the degree to which landlords have to take a hit if they get a bad tenant, because the difficulty in terminating a lease with a bad tenant, getting paid rent arrears and so on, pursuing them through the RTB, perhaps having that appealed then to the civil courts, all of that is time consuming and costly. And ultimately, if a landlord gets a judgment or an order against an individual who has no money whatsoever, well then that's a difficulty. So I can see the pros and cons of the attractiveness or unattractiveness of the buy-to-let market. I'm still in the market myself, but I'm in it because of historical reasons, etc., etc. As I say, the market is strong in terms of demand for accommodation, but sometimes you can get really, really poor tenants who are going to cost you a fortune. Sean O'Sullivan, guards don't take much of an interest in the small things. Go around any town in Ireland and look at the cars parked on the footpaths, broken windows. Theory isn't enforced. That might be true, Sean, but they might have other things to do, bigger fish to fry or whatever. I don't know. Everybody, though, is going to be given out about what the guards are doing and not doing, especially when they are at the brunt of it. In other words, why don't you go and catch some real criminals? We've all heard that sort of thing for down through the centuries, quite frankly, you know, when the person is having their collar felt, as it were, for speeding or for whatever. But, you know, the laws are the laws, and they have to be, I suppose, encouraged to do the job and enforce the laws for the benefit of everybody. But they have to do it fairly. With some sort of landlord's insurance ease their burden, seems like a no-brainer. I don't know what sort of insurance you're looking at, Sean. Obviously, landlords do have insurance, but I mean, there's a limit of what you can get insurance for. And I'm not so sure you can get insurance for having, quite frankly, a poor or difficult or troublesome tenant. That can be difficult. And obviously, the whole question then of having to go to court and perhaps defend some spurious appeal of an RTB decision or whatever can be a problem. An indemnity against bad tenants. Well, if I could get an indemnity against bad tenants, Sean, I would take it, and I'd say it would be a fairly popular product. I don't think there is such a thing, but maybe there is, and maybe some insurance people are out there are looking in or some insurance brokers, and they might be able to let me know or leave a comment there to confirm if there is or isn't. But I don't think there is. So I think the landlord has to just bend over and take it, and that's the reality. Faking ads in the middle of a live. Kim is giving out about ads in the middle of a live. Anyway, Sam David, there doesn't seem to be any political will from any of the parties to reform the rental market in favour of the small landlord. No, there doesn't seem to be any huge sympathy for the small landlord, notwithstanding some individual politicians mouthing platitudes and sympathy and so on. But it's hard to know. I mean, if you begin to give breaks to a particular type of income, for example, rental income, then, should other areas get breaks as well, depending on the type of income that a person might be generating. Having said that, there's obviously a social benefit, a social good in the provision of affordable rented accommodation. So, I mean, that should be taken into consideration, I believe, and that should be a factor in the decision to give a break to landlords and perhaps give a break to the rental income, simply from the social good aspect. In other words, they are providing accommodation which otherwise the state would have to provide. What do you think of the death penalty? I wouldn't be in favour of the death penalty, Tomo Temu, simply because of the finality of it and the clear mistakes and miscarriages of justice that have happened in various jurisdictions down through the decades or the centuries or whatever. So I wouldn't be in favour of the death penalty. Kathy, can a buyer put a clause in an exchange of contract whereby if they change their mind, they won't lose their deposit? Can a buyer put a clause in an exchange of contract whereby if they change? Katie, is it, or Kaylee? You can try it, Kaylee, but contract by definition is a negotiation between the parties, and the likelihood is that that particular special condition would not be acceptable to the vendor. If I was acting for the vendor, I wouldn't accept it anyway, that's for sure. So you can put it in if you want, you can try and put it in if you want, but if the other party doesn't agree and says, screw you, I'm not accepting that, either sign up or else we'll deal with somebody else, that would be my view. I predict all the good ethical landlords will exit the market. Meanwhile, only the nasty types will make a profit in the landlord business. Maybe. What do you think of the attempted reforms to judges being appointed? Would you be accepting of a call up? The chances now of me getting a call up to be a judge are slim, and Slim just left town. There's absolutely no chance. Jesus Christ, like I'm a solicitor with a YouTube channel, that's it. Small practice in Enfield. There's no way I'd be a judge. But in terms of the reforms, the attempted reforms to judges being appointed, I think the Supreme Court will find the proposed bill for the Judicial Appointments Commission to be unconstitutional, and I think it'll be sent back for, it'll fail, quite frankly. I think it'll fail because I think it removes the discretion from the government to appoint judges, and that discretion is in Bunrock na Héireann. So all the people who are jumping up and down and waving the Constitution around the place are the very same people who will be jumping up and down when this bill fails and is found to be unconstitutional. But hey ho, Constitution is there for everybody, and I think it'll be found to be unconstitutional, and I think they'll have to redraft the legislation. That's just my view. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, we're getting towards the end there now. 53 minutes done, and we have a few more minutes to go if we want. I think it goes on for 1 hour. I think I have 6 minutes left. So if you have any more questions, fire away there, and I'll have a look at them. I have to go and get another beer now, so I better wait. Until we're finished. Hit the old thumbs up button down below if you don't mind. It's just, it helps the channel, and I don't charge for anything, and I haven't started any membership yet. And maybe I will start a membership. Maybe I'll do that Patreon thing or whatever, where I'll do a video, a certain video for the Patreon subscribers and maybe or the members or whatever. But that's something I've considered in the past, but I haven't really done it. So everything I've done so far on YouTube, I've just given away, and I just publish the information, publish the videos, share what I know, share what I've learned, share what I'm learning, and that's important and it's valuable. But for now, I haven't charged anything, and I've no plans at the moment. But sometimes it crosses my mind. Any idea why the work from home legislation is being delayed? People are being forced into offices up and down the country where it's very unpopular. When it's very unpopular, it may be unpopular, Sean, with the people who are being forced into the offices, but a lot of employers probably have different views. But obviously, there's different views on working from home and so on. And I'm not sure why the work from home legislation. There's no right to work from home. There is a right to request your employer to allow you to work from home, but the employer can simply say no. And there's a huge amount of reasons, a good number of reasons as to why the employer can give for not allowing a person to work from home. So, there's a balancing of rights there between employer and employee, and that's the story. DC Brit 2003. What is your biggest regret in business? I don't have any huge regrets, to be honest about it. I'd be happy enough, I think, with what I've done. I've made mistakes, but I've learned from them, and I've done well and I've done badly, and I've climbed up the ladder and I've slipped down the ladder and slipped down the pole and so on. But I don't have any huge regrets, quite frankly. I suppose the property thing back in 2006, 2007 was, with the benefit of hindsight, a big mistake. But if I hadn't lost my shirt in the property crash, the Celtic Tiger crash of 2008, I wouldn't have become a solicitor. So that's because I had to do something and my back was to the wall and I had to change careers and so on. And I had to use my mind rather than capital because I had no capital. And I discovered I had a decent mind. So even though that was a catastrophic decision to enter and bet the whole farm on property in 2006, 7, 8, it's worked out really well because I made the best of it. So there you go. The revised draft legislation on work from home allows for an appeal to WRC. The employer has to justify why, with a reason why not. Absolutely, but the employer can go along and say why not, and the WRC are going to find in favour or not, and that's just usual crack, the usual dispute. But you'll find that the WRC can't force an employer to allow a person to work from home. I don't think. Well, maybe they can. Maybe they can according to legislation. But I mean, he would be a brave WRC man now or woman, adjudicator, who would make a decision in that regard if the employer is saying that the home situation is completely unsuited or had some other valid reasons. I think it would be a difficult enough decision to make. Maybe. What concerns you the most on the global stage at the moment? Inflation, oil markets, the Middle East, US-China relations. The situation in Gaza, Israel, that would concern me, and the situation Russia, Ukraine, they would concern me. I'm not too concerned about US-China relations or the oil markets, stuff like that, quite frankly. I just think it's an appalling sadness, on a human level, to see so many people being killed, both in Gaza and in Israel and in the Ukraine and so on, in those conflicts. I think it's just completely avoidable. It's tragic. It's sad. It's just such a waste of life. So I hate to see that sort of shit. There's many a person who worked from home for years during COVID without issue. I would think it's hard to justify why it is now has to be done from the office when there's proven track record. Yeah, well, that remains to be seen, Sean. That remains to be seen. Anyway, we're wrapping up there now shortly. We have a couple of minutes to go, and this thing is just going to end. I think it probably ends on an hour, and if it doesn't, I'll be ending it now shortly. Thanks for signing or for coming along today at such short notice. Obviously, I've only decided to go live there, the last hour or so. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the thumbs ups on the channel, and Please continue supporting the channel and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit the thumbs up button down below if you haven't done already. Joan Beveridge, thanks Terry. Thank you, Joan. Thanks for coming along and listening to my chat and attempt to answer your questions. I might do it again in the not too distant future. But for now, I am going to pull the plug and wish you a very happy Sunday and the rest of the day and the weekend, and a good week ahead. Thanks for support, and thanks for coming along.